Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, with a presentation that sets out to cover the nuclear arms race, something your textbooks don't focus on a lot, and which in truth does not feature in your exam. But it's such a constant and important backdrop to the Cold War that we really should all know something about it. I deal with this more fully in my ebook on containment, but let's at least cover the most important points in this presentation. America first tested an atom bomb on July the 16th, 1945, before dropping bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki on August the 6th and August the 9th respectively. The cost of life, mostly civilian life, was between 120,000 and 220,000 people. The Soviet Union developed its own atom bomb and tested it in August 1949. This was much sooner than the Americans had expected, thanks in part to spies that were inside the Manhattan Project, which was the code name for the development of the American bomb. By 1953, both countries had tested H-bombs. America in 1952, the Soviet Union just a year later. The nuclear arms race was well and truly on. And America was right to be worried about advances in Soviet technology, though the so-called missile gap at the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis was decidedly in America's favour, and they knew it. America's ability to produce more and technically superior nuclear weapons resulted in it rarely being at a disadvantage. But why did bomb and rocket technology, the delivery system, develop at such a frantic pace? There are three main reasons. The first is to gain a strategic advantage. This in itself can be seen in two ways: a military strategic advantage, but also a political advantage, it being always easier to negotiate from a position of strength. The second reason is linked. The intent was not to use the weapons, but to deter the other side from doing so. This is where America's strategies come into the equation. First, President Eisenhower's massive retaliation. Then, President Kennedy's preference for mutually assured destruction, or MAD. And it is why it became not only crucially important to have more weapons than the other side, but to have better weapons too. And finally, the third reason is that though these weapons were incredibly costly, and they played a part in bankrupting the Soviet Union, what you got for your buck, as the Americans would say, that is, the damage one nuclear warhead would cause, still made them cheaper than conventional weapons and large armies. Now there is a clear link between the technology and the two main strategies deployed by the Americans. President Eisenhower saw that he could use the bomb as a highly cost-effective deterrent to the Soviet Union's and the People's Republic of China's overwhelmingly larger armies, and with their conventional weapons. His nuclear force had to be so large as to have the potential to deliver massive retaliation, so as to deter the other side from threatening American interests anywhere in the world. This was nuclear deterrence. America wouldn't start a war, but it would have the capability of ending it. But the delivery of the nuclear threat in the 1950s depended on bomber planes, the B-52 for the Americans and B-4 for the Soviets. All this was to change, and with it America's strategy with the rocket technology of the 1960s. In 1957, the Soviet Union tested the world's first intercontinental ballistic missile, an ICBM, which would carry a huge nuclear payload from the heart of Soviet territory to any point in America in a matter of minutes. Everything now changed. America was already developing their own rocket technology, and by 1963 America had more than a 5-to-1 advantage over the Soviet Union when it came to ICBMs. 550 to fewer than 100. This is mutually assured destruction, or MAD. You may well destroy me, but you also know that I will throw so many missiles back at you that you too will be destroyed. The key to it was that it takes between 30 and 35 minutes for an ICBM to be launched and hit its target. Enough time for the other side to launch their own ICBMs, which, with the checks, and you'll appreciate that there are a few checks to go through, takes about 5 minutes. And enough of them will get through the enemy's defense systems and to their targets. MAD. However, though launching an ICBM may give the other side enough time to retaliate, with the development of medium or intermediate range missiles, things change dramatically again. Short-range or medium-range missiles would reach their targets in no more than 10 minutes. Intermediate or long-range missiles in about 20 minutes. This is where the time factor comes even more into play, because the 5 minutes needed to launch an ICBM might not give enough time to retaliate if medium or intermediate range missiles are used. The enemy's launch has to be detected, communication made between the military and their political masters, a decision made, all before the 5-minute launch procedures. So, if a medium or intermediate range missile attack can knock out the enemy's communication systems, or better still, their ICBM silos, then an ICBM strike can be launched with a much reduced capacity for the other side to strike back. There will always be a strike back though. Both sides have submarines and planes permanently in flight that could strike back even if all the ICBMs were destroyed, which would be doubtful. But now you see why Soviet medium and intermediate range missiles in Cuba was a potential game changer. I'm sure you can see the importance of knowing this. More interesting detail that takes you beyond the Cuban Missile Crisis in my containment ebook that you can get on Amazon. But as I always say, that's up to you. I will simply thank you so much for listening. Good luck with your studies. Cheers.